E-commerce expansion myths blasted. Successful cross-border expansion help. Listen to the show to hear how one UK company is helping e-commerce sellers successfully expand into Europe and double their profits. Hosted by Andy Hooper of Global E-commerce Experts.
So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another exciting podcast we've got for you today on the Expander series. I'm really excited for this one. This is something that we've been working on over the last couple of weeks, and it's been a great pleasure to get Florian on the call today because we've watched his social following and his Instagram grow over the last couple of months, and now it's an opportunity for us to get involved and hear more about that story and see if we can help spread that word for him as well. So Florian, welcome.
Appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. So Florian, why don't you just give everyone a little introduction about you and who you are, where you are, and perhaps a little bit about sort of the Instagram story, because that sort of lines up into where we are.
Yeah. So my name is Florian. I'm from Germany. I've been living in the United Arab Emirates for the past 7 years now, in Dubai, and I sell on Amazon Germany. So I got into this a little over a year ago. As a matter of fact, I started looking into Amazon about 2 years ago. And then it took me a little while, just reading up on it and researching, and I actually started that in I would say beginning of last year.
Fantastic.
I got me hooked, so I love it.
So there's a couple of things there for me. So how did you end up in Dubai? What was why move from Germany to Dubai?
Well, initially I moved there as a personal trainer. So I was involved in fitness, and that was my sort of thing. And I started a business there 5 years ago. I started a PT company there.
Yeah.
And then I started to hire trainers and so on. So that grew. And but about 2 years ago, as I said, I heard about Amazon. And that's something that fascinated me. Just the way you can scale a business online was always something that I found extremely interesting, because you're not really dealing with a team. For example, my other business, the PT business, I'm having a team, I'm having staff. And the idea that you can build and scale a business without actually having a lot of people involved, and source a lot of components out, was something that, I found really interesting. That's why I went for it. Yeah, I still have the PT business. I'm doing the Amazon sort of on the side. I'm not taking any money out. I'm trying to grow it to a point where at some point it can support me.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's a great way. It's a similar story we hear from other sellers where they've sort of they've started it part-time, sort of the bedroom business, garage business type sort of process where they've started something and slowly grown it, and it was just a hobby to start off with, for the want of a better word. I don't want to downgrade it because it's not, but it was sort of, well, let's just see what happens, and before they know it, wow, look, this is crazy. And it gives them, because as you say, all my staff here are amazing, by the way, but they do bring you additional headaches that you wouldn't get if you don't have them. Like, it's as simple as that. Yeah.
True.
So you've ended up in Dubai. You're not in Dubai at the moment, though, are you?
No, I'm in Germany right now. So had to escape the summer heat for a little while.
It gets pretty hot there, as we talked about in the past. It's pretty toasty. So,
very hot. Yeah.
So let's go right back to that beginning of that journey, if that's okay.
Sure.
You obviously sort of saw some things perhaps online. You started looking at stuff. What was going to work, and what was the first process, the sort of first product? How did that all come about?
So in terms of the Instagram, to just briefly touch on that, I wanted to basically document this entire process from the very first day. So my very first post is literally when I was in Germany about 2 years ago. I was here in the summer, same place that I'm at right now, and I came across Amazon. So my first post on my Instagram was basically me actually thinking about starting an Amazon business, and then I documented it. And I wanted to do this from the very first day, even though I had no results, I had nothing to show for. But I also did that to hold myself accountable. I put myself out there from the very first day, just to also hold myself accountable, because people still start asking, hey, how's it going? How's things going? And I didn't want to slack off. I want to constantly, provide content for people, and that holds me accountable as well. That's a big part of why I started to document it that early on.
That accountability,
Yeah.
sorry to jump in there, Florian, that accountability, do you think that comes from your PT where you're training other people and you're holding them to account?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. And also what we do with clients is most clients that are embarking on a journey, let's call it a weight loss journey, they don't want their pictures taken on day one. They want their pictures taken after a month or 2 or 3 when they already have results.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame. Why wouldn't you just document it from the very first day? Because it's just amazing to see where you started from zero. And that's exactly what I wanted to do with that journey. Just from the very first day, no results, nothing to show for, and then you move along.
Yeah, I think
that accountability is a big part. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, that accountability is one of the things we hear on a regular basis is how do I hold myself to account? What do I need to do to be accountable? Because when you run your own business, the only one you're really accountable to is you. And, you know, sometimes by putting it out there and saying, here's what I'm doing and here's where I'm going, you're saying, no, you're going to hold me to account because I don't want to look silly when if I stop after 1 week. And so clearly you've been going a lot longer than that.
See, and a lot of people don't even, when they start something new, something fresh, they're afraid to tell people about it because they don't want to come across as a failure if they, for some reason, don't achieve the result. And I think that's a shame. Why wouldn't you tell people and help them? As I said, help them make you accountable for what you want to accomplish. I think that's a great thing. You should not be embarrassed if, for some reason, things don't work out. Just put yourself out there, man. It's just that I don't know. It's just the way I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's amazing. So with the Instagram started right at the beginning, and actually while we're talking about the Instagram, let's just do a shout out to what that is. We'll do that at the end as we always do, but let's do that now so that people, if they're listening, they could sort of go and search that and follow you while we're talking about it.
So my Instagram handle, I only use Instagram as a social media channel, is my 7-figure FBA journey. So literally starting from zero and trying to scale this business to $1 million in sales a year. So that's
have you got
the idea.
Have you got a time scale in mind?
I don't.
No, fine.
I don't. See, when I started, to be very honest, I had wrong expectations. When I started Amazon FBA, I did have wrong expectations because you see all that stuff out there, right? And it's just not that easy. And my first product just really dragged along for a long time. And I thought, this is not going to work. I had doubts along the way all the time. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. When you start something, that entrepreneurial journey you always have a lot of self-doubt, but you just have to keep pushing. And I did doubt a lot, but I never put a time frame on there. It's just, for me, it's just a journey, and the real reward on this is also the things that you learn on that journey that really, that's always something that interested me. It's just the person that you become on that.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, all right, good. So let's talk about that first product. So how did the first product come about? Was it something you was keen in? Was it something you found? What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, the first product, obviously, I did a lot of mistakes with that. And I researched that product at the peak of Q4, which obviously screws up all the numbers, right? And I didn't know better. I didn't know any better. And it was a seasonal product, and it was something that was very complicated to manufacture. I would not do this again as my first product, but I'm still selling it. I'm selling it out now. I still have a few units left, but I'm not gonna continue it. But I think that's something that a lot of people have to understand. Your first product is most likely not gonna hit it out the park or succeed, but that's okay. You have to accept that. You have to understand that this is all part of the process. You have to make these mistakes. You gotta go through it, and learning really is the most important thing in that business, in any business, but especially in Amazon, you have to learn. And if you make these mistakes early on, it's good, because then you can move on. You're not going to repeat them later on. But
so if you could take out a couple of those key learning points you took from that first product, what would it be?
I mean, first of all, is manage your expectations. That's the very first thing before going to any business, right? And then in terms of the product, one of the major mistakes that I've done is I was looking for products rather than for keywords. And people don't look for products on Amazon, they look for keywords. And that product did not have a lot of keyword demand. It had only a few keywords that were driving most of the traffic. And now I'm always going for products that have a lot of keywords associated with the product. So that was probably the main mistake that I've done. There was only 2 main keywords on the product, and that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So
okay,
yeah.
and let's because and then when you launched, you you found the product, you launched, and obviously we've already heard from you saying, you're based in Germany, you lived in Germany. The obvious choice was to launch in Germany. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. Because I know the mentality of the people here. So, and obviously I speak the language as well, and that's why I decided to launch the product in Germany. And there's also a product that it's more likely to be sold in Germany rather than in other marketplaces.
Yeah. And so let's just talk about the German market. How do you think that the German market differs between, the UK or the US or elsewhere? What does the German buyer consume like?
See, Germans are very, very picky. And then when it comes to products, you have to be careful that whatever product you're putting out in the market, it has to be a top-notch product. Germans are very picky. And if something is not right with the product, they will leave you a bad review. Whereas in the States, I'm not selling in the States, but from what I hear, American mentality is a little different. But Germans are very, very strict. They know what they want, and they expect quality products. It doesn't matter what price you sell it at, they always expect a quality product. So that's the one thing. If you sell products in Germany, make sure that they're right and that the quality is good.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, good. So then we launched, then you sort of went and found after the first product. How was it between the first product and finding your second or third product?
Yeah, see, my first product, as I said, it dragged on for a long time. I made a few sales, but it wasn't enough cash flow to really be comfortable and using that cash flow to launch another product. So, and looking back in hindsight, I spent too much time on my first product. I should have just cut it and move on. But again, I went through these things. I made a lot of mistakes, and the thing is all part of it. I had to go through this in order to understand and also to be able to find that second product, because there's a lot of things that I'm looking for in products right now that I didn't know when I started out. So yeah, just kept searching, kept looking for products. And at some point I said, I have to move on. I have to get another product. I need cash flow. I need that cash flow to launch more products. And that's when I found my second product. And luckily I launched it a month ago. And it's really been taken off ever since. So, and I needed that for my confidence level. When you launch your first product and it's not really taken off, you start doubting yourself, but just keep going, really. Just keep going, don't stop, keep learning and keep searching.
So that's the second product. How far away are we to the third product or fourth product?
Well, I'm already looking I'm looking for my third product right now. So I'm hoping to launch another one this year.
Yeah, fantastic. And how do you search? What's your criteria? Have you got an Alibaba? Have you got a Saucer? Are you looking for China, or are you looking elsewhere in the world?
I mean, everywhere basically. So I love using Pinterest as a product research tool, because there's a lot of products that are trendy on Pinterest that you cannot find on Amazon. Yeah. So what I would do is, obviously I use software, I use my filters that I run to find products, and then I use Pinterest as well. So I type in this product on Pinterest and I see what Pinterest suggests. Yeah. And it gives me a lot of interesting variations and styles that I don't find on Amazon. So, but then in terms of product research, everywhere. I mean, I go through a supermarket and I look at things that might be selling on Amazon, and I look them up and see if there's any demand. So just, everywhere, just keep your eyes open.
Yeah, with I in the early days, I used to have a scanner on my phone. I used to go around and scan things there used to be, you go into a shop, and this is sort of in bit of arbitrage. You sort of go around and find, you'd be using the scanner and scan this and like, right, how much is that selling for? Right, buy 10 of those. It was, quite a few years ago now, but that was really exciting actually, because you're in the shop and you're like, right, scan that. Oh, epic. And then we moved into a 3D printing. I did some 3D printing for a while. And one of the things we were looking at is how can we take the products from the 3D printing world that people are buying lots of because they're getting it made, and then making a product out of that and then selling it on Amazon, because you basically take that product, design it, and then you can roll out with it. So there's another way we did do some products in the early days as well, which was actually really exciting because you get these things 3D printed. Like, that's really exciting. I don't know if many people out there actually still do. I mean, people are still doing 3D printing, but I don't know how they're using that in an e-commerce world, getting things before they get things shipped. Most people now get things made in China and then get a test product sent over.
Yeah,
it's pretty common now. So tell me, let's think about launch strategy. When you've launched this second product in the last month, what was the sort of key things you were thinking for the launch?
I mean, for me, the launch, I did 100% PPC launch. So I was very aggressive on the launch. I had 8 different PPC campaigns. So I did this, when I launched my first product, I think I had an automatic campaign running. And then the standard stuff, you let it run for a little bit. And then you tweak it, you take some keywords out, putting them into an exact. But from this time, I had a lot of campaigns running at the same time. I was targeting my competitors. And just I did a lot of research on the keywords, and there were so many keywords. So I was running a very, very aggressive PPC launch. And then I had some bloggers and some influencers. I was reaching out to them to test my product and have it on their feeds and their social media. So, but really looking into Facebook ads, ManyChat, that's something that I want to pursue for my next product. That's something I really want to get into. But for now, just purely PPC.
Now, so obviously you've obviously set up a business in the past. I like to learn a bit about how that all sort of comes back. So how do you educate yourself? What's the thing that gets you going? I'm not saying necessarily you read books, but what's the sort of thing that you learn from the most has helped you sort of inspire you?
I try to learn something every single day. I do books. Obviously, I read a lot. But what I also do is I listen to a lot of things. There's a lot of downtime that we have during the day, when we drive somewhere, when we cook, when we clean, when we in the gym. There's a lot of things where you can actually listen to something, and that's what I try to do. Try to listen to podcasts on a daily basis, audiobooks, and just doing things that when I drive or when I'm in the gym, I'm just trying to use that time and learn something. But books I try to read a little bit every single day. And that's how I try to keep my mind sharp. Just learning on a daily basis. I think that's the greatest weapon that you have as an entrepreneur. Just educate yourself and then also apply, right? A lot of people read and learn, but they never apply. So that's the key, really.
That's the
But you
key
have
bit for me.
But you have to keep learning, because you, at the end of the day, you're the bottleneck, right? And you can only grow the business based on your capabilities. And if you grow, your business can grow as well, but you're always the bottleneck.
Yeah, I think that's really key, actually. Actually, just picking up on that podcast bit, you did a post. I think it's one of your last posts around the top podcasts that you've listened to. I was obviously disappointed not to have ours on there, but tell me about some of those you listened to, because we could do a shout out to some of those. Actually, I think that's really important.
I love Helium 10's podcast. I think they have great content. I've learned a lot through them. The AMPM podcast obviously is a great podcast as well. There's a few others. If people go on my Instagram, they can actually check that post and see the reference there. But again, I mean, there's just so much noise in the Amazon world. So I think just really pick a few podcasts that you resonate with. Pick the people that you like and that make sense to you, and then just stick to those. I think don't overload yourself with too much stuff. Just find people that you trust and then just stick to that.
I think that's sound advice. I think that ability to try and listen to everything, you end up with too many people giving you too many bits. Ooh. And you can't, coming back to the action bit, you've got to take action on this stuff, because otherwise you've got a head full of content and you're not actually actioning it, which is absolutely pointless. Exactly what you're saying. And I think that's really, really key for
I think the biggest learning is only takes place when you execute. It's great to listen to books and to read, and that's all great. Don't get me wrong, but you have to go into execution mode. Otherwise, what are you doing it for, right?
Yeah. So, what were the biggest blockers on Amazon that you found? What were the things that were the biggest obstacles to overcome?
Biggest obstacles to overcome for me, one of the main issues in the beginning was just pulling the trigger on the first product. I think that's what a lot of people are afraid when you finally decide and you put that deposit down, you send that thing to China. It's a scary feeling. So I think that is, once you're on that journey, once you make that first step, you're on your way, right? So that was probably the hardest thing for me in the beginning, just to start, just to make that first leap of faith and go from there. But I mean, there's a ton of mistakes, a ton of lessons that I've learned, just still to this day, every single day, right? But the one thing is just keep moving forward, have faith, and if you don't stop, you will eventually get wherever you want to go to. So just don't stop, just keep going.
Yeah.
Right. And you need to understand that you have to make these mistakes. You have them. They have to make them. They are essential in your progress.
Yeah, agreed. And I think
Don't be afraid.
no, that's quite right. So with Germany, obviously you've just launched on Germany at the moment. And I think you alluded to some of that a moment ago, where you feel that your products aren't necessarily a great resonation with some of the other markets. But that might have been for your first.
My first product, yes. That's a very typical German product.
Yeah. So with the new products, then obviously you've got it on Germany.
Yes.
Our typical, obviously we look after the whole of the EU, so we sort of know the market relatively well. But what's the thinking and process? When do you think you get that into the other countries?
I'm actually looking into that right now. I try to go into France and to Spain. So what I'm thinking now is if I should, and I don't know that yet, if I should, if I should enter the Penny U program that Amazon offers, or if I should keep my stuff in Germany and sell it out to these other marketplaces. So, but it's something that I'm considering at the moment.
I think let me because obviously we come across this question quite a lot, and I think that the key thing says that the European fulfillment network, where you ship your goods from Germany into the other countries, is the best way to start. Because if you're on the Pan EU program, that's amazing. What that means is you get all your products in every country and they fulfill them from every country. So every country gets it from Prime. When I say every country, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, and Netherlands, you've got that. But what that means is, because your products are stored in those countries and the UK at the moment, they're also stored in Poland and the Czech Republic. Now, what that really means is that you have to be VAT registered in all of those countries if you don't have a business in those countries. So anyone from selling outside the EU or in Europe that's not registered in those countries as a business needs to be VAT registered. So what happens is, on the Pan EU program, is you're increasing your costs significantly, because you don't have the ability to, because you've got the ability, to fulfill from those countries. You've then got VAT representation required, and you're then increasing your costs significantly straight away. We would recommend turn on European Fulfillment Network. You can ship your products to all the other countries, and then when you see that there's thresholds, okay. So when you're going from Germany, there's a threshold into France, Spain, Italy, or wherever. It's about probably 35,000 euros. So, and into the UK, it's £70,000. So when you're doing that shipment, you can look on your report and see when you're reaching that threshold. Because when you get to that threshold, at that point, you can then go, well, then I'll put my products in that country and I'll start fulfilling. And that's the best way to do it. That's not everyone. Some people might want to go, I want to go all guns blazing and put all my products in those countries and just go for it. No problem with that at all. But that's quite a risky strategy. If you
and especially for example, I don't want to sell in any country. I only want to sell this product in France. So you recommend I keep them in Germany and just basically create a listing on the French marketplace and sell it there, rather than sending them out into every country?
Exactly that. Yep. So what you do is you basically go onto Amazon Seller Central, go to sell globally. Your products will all be, you'll probably find in most cases your listings are already listed in those countries. You just need to tick the button. You tick the button for France, and France will then see your product. You might need to tweak the listing, you can get it translated and all that sort of stuff, but France will then do it. Then what will happen is that automatically just gets shipped from Germany into France. Now,
problem is only the shipping time, right? The cost of the shipping time.
Yeah, you'll need to adjust that in the back end. So under settings on the right hand side, you go down to shipping, and you can adjust the settings down there on what that cost looks like, the time frame and everything else, depending on whether you're FBA. If it's in FBA, then FBA will look after a lot of that for you, because they're going to ship it. The downside to being on the European Fulfillment Network is the cost of shipping across border is higher. But to start off with, like, you don't need to worry about that. Like, let's just get the product selling. You know, if you see it starting to sell well and you think you've sold like, you know, £10,000 in a few months, get VAT registered. Go all out.
Gotcha. That's a good point.
Know? But don't, because I think too many people go, well, let's be VAT registered everywhere. Let's go pan EU. And then what that means is their costs are so high that they've got to sell products in every country. You know, and I know from the data I see that, you know, Germany and the UK are about a third each of the whole of the European Amazon. So 2/3 of all sales happen in the UK and Germany for the average product. All of the other countries are relatively far down the scale. So even France, Italy and Spain, it goes on a complete trajectory down on the amount that's sold in those countries. So, you know, you have to balance that out and think, you know, how that's going to best work for your product.
Yeah. So keep them in Germany, you said, use the European Fulfillment Network and then ship them out.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the way to go.
Okay, I'll look into that.
And then you can see that. And that it's really straightforward and easy. You know, it's a 10-minute job max to get that set up. So, you know, and actually you could, if you want to sell in Italy and Spain, you can do that at the same time. I mean, you could do the whole of Europe. You could press the whole of Europe and be fulfilled from Germany. So I know you said you were thinking just those countries, but for the sake of pressing 4 buttons, you might as well, or 5, because you got the Netherlands, apologies. You could easily just press all of them and let them do it. Now, there's only one thing you need to consider, is that what happens is if you get a return in one of those countries, the return, so let's take France as an example, you know, I've got a water bottle in my hand, okay? You'll see it if it's on the video, but obviously if you're listening as the podcast, you won't hear it, but I've got a water bottle. Typical sort of water bottle you might be able to buy on Amazon. Now, if I buy this in the UK, let's say this is your product, Florian, I get this in the UK and I decide I don't want it, I'll return it. We know people return things on Amazon. There's no problem with that. Now, what will happen is that will go back to a UK fulfillment center. Now, because that's in a UK fulfillment center, that then triggers a VAT obligation if you're not careful. So what you need to make sure you're doing is looking at your return reports, which you can find under the inventory reports tab. And basically you take that, you basically look for your reports. And as soon as you get something come back returned, you then basically pull that out and get that back to Germany. Because otherwise you'll end up triggering a VAT obligation if you're not careful. All right. So
what about the shipping cost? That's something the customer has to pay then, no?
So
will I be able to?
Well, you will be able to, and because you can set the settings in Amazon Seller Central. So you can set the ship. So let's say that you want to charge the customer an extra £1 or £2 or €2, whatever it happens to be. You can put that into Amazon Seller Central, or you can put it as included in the price, depending on what you want to do.
I got you.
Yeah, and it's straightforward. But you do need to consider the returns. That's the only thing you do need to consider, because that does have an effect. So
what about if I sell a substantial amount of goods to a particular market, let's say in France, and it exceeds a threshold? Is there any type of tax that I'm reliable to pay then in that country, or is there any threshold where you say, okay, now it makes sense to roll it out pan-EU?
So the first thing is you'll just trigger the VAT in those countries. So the tax you'll have to pay will be the VAT. So that's
from the very first sale.
No, because there's something called the distance selling threshold. So when you're selling into France, you've got 35,000 euros you can sell into France. So until you've hit that 35,000 euros, you pay the VAT in Germany. All right. If you're a German registered business that hasn't reached the threshold for VAT in Germany yet, then you might not have to pay VAT at all. All right. But you'll know better on the German side than I will for that sort of accounting side. Now, on that, what then happens is that once you've reached the 35,000 euros, that's when you then have an obligation to register and then start paying the VAT. Yeah. So that's how that works. So that was the first part of the question. What was the second part?
Well, if you suggest that a particular threshold is reached, to switch and put the goods into
Penny.
France, penny, and use penny U.
Mm.
Once you exceed that, I'm assuming. Yeah.
So my suggestion typically is to register in the countries where you see the sales going. So let's say France, you saw that. Then you've got Germany, then you've got the UK, then you've got Spain. You do it one by one, because what happens is that Pan EU, you have to register in 7 countries. And that includes Poland and the Czech Republic, because Amazon's got fulfillment centers there, soon to be Austria and possibly Slovenia and Slovakia as well. So there is a huge cost for doing all of those when you're not selling in those. So what's the number of sales? Well, it depends on the profit of your products. So you're looking at, to do Pan EU VAT, you could be looking at £5,000 to £8,000 per year in VAT in submissions and things. So you need to look at the profit of your product to then work out when that works. Now the advantage is that you could send all your products to Germany, and Germany will distribute those in the Pan EU program. So Amazon will actually send your products to France for you free of charge to get them on the Pan EU program. So there are some cost savings to consider with that. Is there a magic number? It's all down to your products. If I say, well, 100,000, people will go doing it 100,000 and say, I don't have enough profit. So it's all down to the profit within your product.
And how would I know my inventory levels? Is that one inventory level, the stuff that I have stored in Germany, or if it's then shipped to France or Spain, Italy, how would I know how many products are currently in other countries?
You do an inventory report. So you should, okay. you will see that on your Seller Central, but you can do an inventory report as well. So you can put an inventory report that shows you where everything is in each European country. So you've got 3 in Poland and 5 here and 10 here and 100 here. You can do all of that. But on your Seller Central, under your dashboard on Manage Inventory, if you will just see how many's in your total inventory. So if you've got 100 units, let's say, it will show 100 units available. But when you pull the report, it might show 10 here, 10 there, 20 there, 30 there. And that's how you would see it. Okay. So you wouldn't see any difference. So you can manage that really easily.
Understood.
So that was good. That was a little bit of information for everyone. And hopefully that's useful for you as well, Florian.
Very useful.
That sort of information.
Appreciate that.
If you're going through that, I suspect other people are asking exactly the same questions. And that's really what this is all about, making sure people have got the answers they need in order to help them to expand. And that's, we typically talk about expanding from outside the EU in, but really it's the same process whether you're in Germany and around the whole EU as it is from the US. Once you're in one country, getting to the others, yes, it's a lot closer, but it's the same sort of thing. Now, is there on that actually, and I think that's really key, is what sort of resources do you think would have been useful or were useful when you were launching?
I mean, in terms of general learning about Amazon, or?
Yeah, just in general about Amazon.
What resources? I mean, as I said, podcasts are a great resource. I think I've learned a lot through podcasts, just listening through podcasts, and just reading stuff as well, blogs, podcasts, talking to other sellers. This is one of the main reasons I put myself on Instagram, is to just basically get in touch with other people in the field, in the industry, right? Because let's be honest, it can be quite lonely as an Amazon seller. You sit on your computer in your office all day, but you're not really out there. And the Amazon community is a global community. So just being able to reach out to people, ask them questions, follow their journeys, teaches you a lot as well.
Yeah, I think that's really key, especially at the moment when we can't travel to educational events or conferences. Yes. I think that's really key. Have you been to any conferences or anything at all?
Nope.
No, there's
not yet. But it's on my list. I want to get more out there and travel and obviously meet people in person as well.
Yeah. There's we do some great ones, White Label and Prosper and ASD. There's some amazing ones out there. There's so many.
Yeah.
It's,
you do any conferences yourself? Any meetups?
Yeah, so we're doing. Ones we got coming up, we've got White Label, Prosper in the States, ASD in the States, and there's a whole. Our aim this year was to go to one a month, but that saved me a few flight bills, didn't it? But I would rather have been traveling, because I love the traveling side of things. I get a week of peace.
Yeah.
Don't tell my wife. I don't think she'll listen to this, so I think I'm going to be quite safe. A week away from the wife and kids is like peace and heaven. You get on that plane and you're quiet and you've got no one interrupting you other than the air stewardess. Would you like another drink? I'll take that drink. Yes, please. Thank you. So I think that's great. Okay, right. I think we need to start wrapping up if that's okay. Now, Florian, what sort of advice would you give anyone that's either looking to sort of set out or expand to Germany that might be useful for them?
I mean, first of all, as we touched on earlier, is probably if you want to expand, make sure that whatever you're selling right now is solid and that these products are worth expanding. And for me, I'm sort of at this stage right now where you're starting out, you have a few products, you're trying to launch your third, fourth product, and then should I stay in one marketplace or should I expand? That's a decision that at some point you have to make. So I'm trying to figure that out for myself as well. But you know, just before you enter a market, I would say just educate yourself on it. You know, every market is different. The US is different than the UK and Germany, and I guess Japan is very special as well. Just try to understand the customer who lives there. Try to understand the demographic and tailor your listing based on that as well. So
yeah, I think that's a great point. Even just basic translations, getting the translations right, the pictures of the products.
And I also think is get a professional translator. Don't just hit the button and let Amazon translate it, because the keywords, everything changes, right? Do your keyword research as well. Hire a freelancer, hire a translator, and then they can do that for you. But take the time really to perfect the listing. I think that's important.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Now, Florian, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way of doing that? Best
way to do that is on Instagram. My 7-figure FBA journey. Shoot me a DM. I am very responsive on there. So yeah, it's the best way to reach me. Always happy to connect with you guys.
Fantastic. And I want to say a huge shout out. Say thank you very much for joining us and giving up your valuable time.
It's a pleasure.
We really appreciate it. It's been amazing having you on. So thank you very much.
Pleasure.
No worries. Thank you. And this is it from Expander Series today. Thank you very much for joining us. And we look forward to having you on the next podcast coming very, very soon. Please make sure you give us a like, a share, or rate us wherever possible. And we look forward to hearing from you in the future. Thanks very much.